Welcome back to the Williams Ellaby Howard Neester YouTube channel. I'm Joel, this is Jared, and today we want to talk about the secret metadata that cops and lawyers use in photos to figure out sequence and timing of events, and it's called EXIF, or Exchangeable Image File Format. And what I mean by that is when you're at a scene, or if you can be using a regular Canon camera, if it's a more up-to-date one, you can be using your iPhone, your Android, and you take pictures, then it automatically records certain information that can be helpful to us as lawyers, to police officers, anybody involved in the legal system. And so here's an example that we're going to put up on the screen of my dog when I was driving back from my mother's house in South Georgia, and my truck broke down just north of Columbus. And I'm stranded, I'm sitting there at a picnic table waiting on my wife to come pick me and my dog up. But as you can see on the metadata, it tells you not only is she's a mutt, but it picks her up as a Weimaraner, so it's not perfect. But it says there, and then I can research what kind of dog that is. It tells you the exact type of device that I used to take the photograph with. It tells you the time, the date, when I took the photograph. And even more importantly, it GPS locates exactly where I was when I took that photograph, which was a rest stop right off of I-185 north of Columbus, heading back to where we live here in Kennesaw. Another example is right here on the screen of me and one of our paralegals, Hannah Smith, when we were at Touch a Trucks for one of the Kennesaw Parks and Recreation events here. And it will tell you, you can look right there on the GPS portion where it tells you exactly where our tent was set up, what time we were there, and where that picture was taken. So you can narrow it down, and that's super important sometimes in car wreck cases or any major event case where people use cell phones to take photographs for several reasons. So you want to give us one reason, Jared?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, at least in car accident cases, is the GPS data can be super important in terms of nailing down where a wreck happened. Sometimes we'll get a collision out in the middle of nowhere on a curvy road. I know you and I have had one not too long ago, and you want to go visit the scene and you're like, well, which curve is it? Is it this one or that one? You know, there's 20 in a row, and you're trying to figure out which bend in the road it was at. And sometimes that GPS data can really narrow it down, so you're not out there looking at trees on the side of the road trying to figure out which one was the one that happened or was in the picture that you have. So I know it's helpful for me a lot in that context of knowing where to go.
100%. And then sometimes also you can use it to correlate, take that timestamp from the wreck itself, and then the first picture that you have maybe of a person's injuries. So you can say, okay, well, we know that the wreck happened on May the 15th at 12 o'clock noon, exactly. Or at least that's when this picture of the wreck was taken at the scene. And then at 8 o'clock, you may have a picture of that person in the hospital with a cast on their arm where they broke their arm, and okay, well, by 8 o'clock they had been seen, they had the cast put on. You can correlate that with the medical records. You can also reverse engineer that and look at somebody's phone, and if they were at a bar or somewhere where they were up to no good or intoxicated and they were taking pictures with their friends and they've got pictures of beer, okay, well, at 6 p.m. after Johnny got off of work, here he is with Max, and they're holding up beers, drinking together, and then here's a picture of the wreck 3 hours later. You can correlate those things to show, hey, yeah, I mean, that metadata doesn't lie. We know beer, wreck. How else could this type of metadata be important, Jared?
Well, I think also in terms of who took the pictures or who owned them, it also puts in there the device that they were taken on. Sometimes there can be some not necessarily chain of custody issues, but authentication purposes, trying to figure out who did take the photo. If you're going to try to get it in a trial, it might become an issue to make sure you can authenticate it, get it admitted into evidence. So that data is good for showing which device it was, and then you can backtrack to who owned it and make sure you get all your ducks in a row to make sure you get your evidence in when trial comes.
Yeah, because sometimes there's so many ways that we can look and see about when something happened. Like maybe we look and see what time a 911 call was made, right? And we can tell what phone number that 911 call was made from. We can look at police reports that'll have estimated times of crash. It'll have estimated time of officer arrival, and we can correlate that with dash cams and body cams and all that kind of stuff. But having the pictures and the metadata is important. So I guess if there's a lesson here for lawyers, is that if the other side just tries to send you printed out pictures or PDF scans of pictures, then it's important to insist that they send you the original formatted picture so that you can look at that metadata and have access to the same information that they have. And then if you request all pictures from someone's phone, say in the 24 hours prior to a wreck, you're probably going to get an objection from the other side. But when you're standing in front of the judge, you have a good argument. Hey, judge, there's reason to believe that this person was intoxicated or under the influence of something. So we need access to these original photos and this metadata. And if you want to look at them before we look at them, judge, that's fine. But somebody needs to look at them to see whether that evidence may exist. It's almost always worth exploring that route if you think there might be some kind of intoxication event going on prior to a car wreck. Or if you're a defense attorney, maybe you want to get that information if, you know, the plaintiff is claiming that they fell. You know, did they fall because of the hazard, or did they fall because they were stone cold drunk?
I just thought of an old case of mine where I wish we had more metadata, and it involved what time was sunset. And I had a passenger in a car, and we were trying to figure out, was her driver or the other driver at fault? And my client's driver didn't have his headlights on. And the other driver was saying he turned left in front of him because he didn't see him because it was dark outside. And it literally, we were looking at estimated 911 call times and things like that, and we couldn't nail down. And we did have pictures immediately taken the second the wreck happened, but it was old school. It was back in the day, and it wasn't as prevalent. I'm sure we could have paid a fortune to get it, but at the time, and it turned on a matter of a minute and a half on whether it was technically dark or technically not. And that would be an excellent example to go looking at that metadata and see if maybe there's enough there to sway it one way or the other.
Yeah, I think we could come up with a million examples, from fall cases to surgical cases to car wreck cases, even to, you know, what time a dog bit somebody and what the puncture wounds look like, or if we really wanted this video to last an hour, but we don't want it to last an hour. So the important lesson here is that if you get into a claim, whether you're an insurance adjuster, whether you're the person that was injured, whether you're an attorney investigating it, whether you're a cop investigating it, make sure that you get the original formatted pictures from whatever electronic device took those photographs or video. Look at the metadata so that you can know exactly what time and where it occurred. And then if you don't want people having access to that data, then you can research how to turn that off on your phone. But we're not going to get into that here because we're lawyers and I like having access to that data. But if it concerns you for privacy rights, there are ways to turn that off. So anything else on this topic, Jared?
No, I think that covers it.
All right. Well, if this video has been helpful, give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
As personal injury lawyers, we love what we do, and we're happy to share the experience we've gained in personal injury law. To help our family, friends, and YouTube subscribers, we've shared over 300 personal injury videos covering various injury topics. So if you'd like to gain more knowledge that may help protect yourself or a loved one when you're on the roads or out in public, check out our channel or view our playlist of shorts for quick personal injury tips.